Okay, guys, in this lesson, we're going to learn how to multiply and divide integers. So up to this point, we have learned how to add and subtract integers. And again, no calculator for this unit, and pausing the video at any time you need to. So let's just go back to the basics and recall that multiplication is simply repeated addition. So when we have 4 times 2, that means we have 4 2's being added together. So another way to represent 4 times 2 is we have repeated addition of 2's. We have 4 2's being added together, and of course we get 8. Or we can have 2 times 4. So this time we have 2 groups of 4 being added together, and again, we get 8. So the concept applies to negative numbers as well. So here we have 4 times negative 2, so we have 4 groups of negative 2 being added together. And with our addition rules, when we are adding numbers that have the same sign, we add them up and apply the sign that they are. Or we could say 2 times negative 4, so we have 2 negative 4's being added together. Signs are the same, we are adding, and we get negative 8. So you can see 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, and 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Okay, so when multiplying two negative numbers, apply the concept that a negative means the opposite of. So when we have negative 4 times negative 2, so if we just look at this negative, and it means opposite of, if we take the opposite of negative 2, that becomes positive. So we have 4 groups of positive 2 actually going on here. So this negative, which means opposite of, and we take the opposite of the second number, and we have repeated addition, we are going to get a positive 8. So negative 4 times negative 2, this negative cancels out this negative, turning it to its opposite, and we get a positive product. The same as if we have negative 2 times negative 4, this negative converts this negative to its opposite of positive. So we have 2 groups of positive 4, which is 8. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. A negative 2 times a negative 3 can be viewed as 2 groups of positive 3 now. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. This negative cancels this negative and becomes a positive. Negative 3 times negative 5, this negative cancels this negative, and we have 3 5's being added together to give us positive 15. Negative 3 times negative 5 gives us positive 15. These negatives cancel out to give us a positive. Therefore, when multiplying numbers with the same sign, the product is always positive. So these rules are much easier to remember than our addition and subtraction. So if signs are the same, the product is positive, but if signs are different, the product is always negative. So product means we have multiplied numbers together. So pause the video and complete these practice problems again with no calculator before moving on to the next part of the video. When multiplying more than one negative number, multiply and apply the integer rules in pairs. So whenever, the way I like to do my problems is you can simply go left to right. Okay, -3 times +4, using the associative property to give us -12. Now we have -12 times -2. These are both the same, so we're going to get a positive product. So I'm applying the associative property, and I'm just going to multiply the first two, get that product, and then multiply that product times the next number. Example number 10, 6 times -5, signs are different, so we get -30 times -3, signs are the same, so they cancel each other out, and we get a positive 90. -2 times -6 is a positive, they cancel each other, so we have 12 times 3, positive 36. Next, we have -2 times -3, that gives us 6. We can go ahead, since we have an even amount, we have another pair, so I can multiply 1 times -4 to get -4. Signs are different, we get negative. And then we have positive 6 times -4 gives us a final answer of -24. 13, I'm going to have the first two as a pair and the last two numbers as a pair. 3 times -3, they're different, that's -9 times -9. Now we have positive answer because this negative cancels this negative to give us a positive 81. Negative times negative is a positive. Negative times negative is a positive. 1 times 1 is 1. Okay, now pause the video to complete these answers or these questions, and then we will move on to the last part of our lesson. The concept of multiplying multiple sign numbers also applies to exponents. So let's take a look at exponents. Recall powers or exponents represent repeated multiplication. Remember, multiplication represents repeated addition. Exponents or powers represent repeated multiplication. The base is the number being multiplied. In this example, 4 is our base, 4 raised to the power of 2 or the exponent of 2. So the base is the number being multiplied, and the exponent indicates the number of times it is used under multiplication. So here we have 4 to the second power. Our base is 4, so 4 is what's being multiplied. It's the one that's being repeated. And then the 2 tells us how many times to write down that base, and then we just multiply. So 4 times 4 is 16, or we can say 4 squared is the same as 16. Do not make the mistake of multiplying 4 times 2. You write the base down, how many ever times the exponent value is, and then you multiply. So let's do some examples together. We're going to be very careful noticing what the base is. The base looks the same in all these problems, but it is not. This is a base of -2 raised to the third. Negative is part of the base, so it gets expanded. -2 times -2 times -2. So we're going to multiply the first two numbers to get +4 times the third -2, and we get -8. Our next example, the base is -2 raised to the fourth. So the negative is included in the expansion. So we have -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. Here, -2 times -2, the negatives cancel out. -2 times -2, our final answer is positive 16. Now let's notice the difference or similarities in the next two problems. This time our base is 2 raised to the third with this negative understood -1 out front. It is not part of the base. It does not get extended. So we have negative, and then we have 2 times 2 times 2. So we have -4 times +2 to give us -8. Here we have -2 to the fourth. Our base is 2. We have 4 2's being multiplied with an understood negative out front. So we have negative, and then we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So we're going to get -4 times +4, which gives us -16. So notice the difference. So whenever the negative is included in the parenthesis, it is part of the base and it gets written out with the integer. It is part of the integer. But when there is no parentheses, this negative is not included with the base. Okay, so now finish out these practice problems before we go to the last part of our lesson. Rules for dividing numbers is the same as multiplying, so that's the good news. Multiplying and dividing have the same rules. When the signs are the same and you're multiplying or dividing, your answer is positive. When you're multiplying or dividing and the numbers are different, your answer is always negative. So here we have two positives, so we get a positive quotient. Here we have two negatives, they're the same, so we get a positive quotient. Different signs, we get a negative quotient. Okay, so apply those simple rules before we go to the very last section of this lesson. Recall there are terms and phrases that represent operations, such as multiplication and division. So here is a list of common terms that mean to multiply or to divide. And now let's do a couple examples together before you finish up the last part of this lesson. So Sam descended 100 feet under the water. So descend means negative. He split each stage into 5 parts. So using an integer to represent how many feet he descended per stage. So he begins at 100 feet underwater. I'm going to use a negative. And then it was divided into 5 stages. So each stage he was going down 20 feet. The stock dropped $50 each day, so drop means negative, for 6 days. So days is positive. We're going to use an integer to represent the total loss. So we have a negative times a positive. So the loss is negative $300, $50 per day it went down. Okay, now these are the last problems for this lesson. So write your statement and then give your final answer. And again,